Hello and welcome to another episode of The Letter of the Law on Bloomsbury Radio at Bloomsbury Institute, London. This podcast is also going out on the London Legal Podcast as hosted by law firm Hodge Jones Allen solicitors. Today we are talking about the subject of training contracts. So for aspiring lawyers out there, we have two legal experts here from the firm Hodge Jones Allen who are going to talk about training contracts in general, the process to actually apply to become a trainee at that firm, and some valuable tips for those who are listening to this. Now, you might be a trainee listening to this, you might be a local member of the public whose son or daughter wants to become a lawyer one day. In either case, this is the place to listen to some valuable tips to find out exactly what it takes to become a lawyer, and specifically at Hodge Jones Allen solicitors. So joining us today, we have partner and trainee principal Bahareh Amani at Hodge Jones Allen solicitors, and we're also really pleased to have a trainee solicitor as well, Emily Cope. Bahareh and Emily, say hello.
Hi. Hello.
Great, thank you very much for taking part today. So let's start with Bahareh. Tell us a bit about yourself, what's brought you here today, and what is a training principal?
Hello everyone, and thank you for having us at the Bloomsbury Institute. My name is Bahareh Amani. I'm a partner at Hodge Jones Allen, and I'm also the firm's training principal. That means I oversee our trainee solicitors and help guide them through their training contracts and into qualification. I'm really pleased to be joined today by one of our current trainee solicitors, Emily Cope, who actually joined us as an external candidate. So they've been through the application process themselves and can give you a really honest perspective about what it's like to start a career at Hodge Jones Allen. Today, we wanted to talk about what our firm does and what it's like to train as a solicitor with us, and also hopefully encourage some of you listening to think about applying to Hodge Jones Allen.
Okay, so if someone is listening to this and, training contracts is an extremely it can be a very challenging process. It's hard to know about the firm you want to apply for. If someone's listening to this and is not familiar with Hodge Jones Allen, Bahareh, can you talk a little bit about the history of the firm, what differentiates it from other law firms, and just the sort of general cases that you work on?
Of course. At Hodge Jones Allen, we're a London-based law firm with a strong reputation for representing individual clients rather than large corporations. This means our work often involves people going through some of the most important and difficult moments of their lives. Our lawyers work across various different departments such as criminal defence, medical negligence, personal injury, housing and community care, family law, civil liberties and human rights, private clients, and the dispute resolution team. What really defines our firm is our strong commitment to access to justice. Many of our cases involve holding organisations, public bodies and institutions accountable. That kind of work attracts lawyers who want to do something meaningful within their legal careers.
Thank you. So if you want to find out more about Hodge Jones Allen, www.hjA.net is the website. So Bahareh, you've spoken about the firm, the sort of lawyers that take part. Let's go a bit deeper into that. Would you say then that a HJA lawyer, a Hodge Jones Allen solicitors lawyer, is a very particular type of lawyer, whether in the skill set required or their view of the legal world and the clients you take on? So in that respect, are you looking for certain personality traits in the trainees that you do take up?
I certainly think that we're looking for trainees that have a real passion for the work that they undertake, that they're resilient and they persevere, and most importantly, they understand what is required to achieve outcomes for their client. At Hodge Jones Allen, we provide specialist advice in highly sensitive and life-changing areas and moments for our clients. So understanding that the impact that you make in a client's life and being able to engage with your supervisor and your team to undertake the best for the client can be life-changing for our clients. Being able to build a relationship with clients, colleagues, whether your colleagues are senior or peer, or junior members of staff, and being led by example, that's an absolute key. You are the future solicitor, and so there's going to be many junior members of staff that will be looking up to you, and it's absolutely important that we hold that value, belief and momentum throughout our career at Hodge Jones Allen.
Great, thank you. Now, the training contract at HJA itself, what do you think makes it unique?
Well, let me explain a little bit about how training works at Hodge Jones Allen as a trainee solicitor. Our training contract programme lasts 2 years and it includes 4 6-month seats in different departments. This allows the trainee to experience a variety of areas of law before deciding what they want to specialise in. In any 1 year, we have 2 cohorts, which comprises of our first year trainee and our second year trainee. They have close interactions together, they often work in the same departments, and they go out socially, and both of them could even be doing the same seat. We also have a mentoring scheme at Hodge Jones Allen, which means every trainee is allocated a mentor on their first day. This is a great tool and an option that we have available for our trainees because it allows them to fit into the firm, have someone that they can speak to, and just to make them feel more comfortable. As training principal, I see our trainees as the next generation of lawyers, and I'm committed to giving them meaningful support and high quality training during this crucial foundation stage of their careers. I value candidates who have a genuine passion for the law, a willingness to take on board the range of work that we do, and the drive to strengthen their skills through the varied experience that we offer. One of the things trainees often highlight is the level of responsibility that they get given at Hodge Jones Allen. Rather than sitting on the sidelines, taking notes, they're really part of the legal team. That means as a trainee at Hodge Jones Allen, you may help prepare cases, you may attend court, police stations, working directly with clients and their families, drafting documents, whether for court or for clients, and assisting partners on complex cases. Something that's very also important at Hodge Jones Allen is our culture point. There's a difference that we offer in our firm, and that's the close supervision that trainees receive. You'll often be sitting in the same office as a partner or a senior lawyer, and you'll be working very closely, so you learn every single day on your day-to-day direct interaction with your supervisor and your team.
Well, Bahareh, I'm sold. If I was actually a student in university and I was thinking of applying for a training contract, I would head over to www.hja.net and I'd make an application and see where I get. But I'm not in that situation. So if a student is actually listening to this and is thinking, right, I like the sound of this firm and I'd like to find out more, then www.hja.net is the website to go to. Search under the career section and you will find out more about the trainee program itself, everything that Bahareh and Emily are talking about today, and you've got the chance there to actually make an application. So what better a person to have on a show about a training contract than a trainee solicitor? And we're pleased to have Emily Cope with us today, who is a trainee solicitor today. Now she's an external candidate who managed to get a training contract at Hodge Jones Allen. Emily, I'm going to ask you first, what attracted you to apply to Hodge Jones Allen in particular compared to other law firms?
Thank you, Swarev. Even at university, Hodge Jones Allen consistently stood out to me as the firm not only excels in its practice areas, but it also lives its value in a way that no other firm does. HJA's long-standing commitment to social justice, its willingness to take on complex and even often challenging cases, and its reputation for standing up for individuals and communities resonated deeply with the reasons why I wanted to become a lawyer in the first place. What drew me in was the alignment between the firm's ethos and my own motivations, a belief in fairness, a desire to help people at pivotal moments of their lives, and a commitment to using the law as a tool for positive change.
Thank you, Emily. And what surprised you the most when you actually started this training contract with the firm?
I think one of the biggest surprises was that you're not expected to know everything, and that is completely okay. Coming from university and given how competitive that the legal industry can be, there's often an unspoken pressure to have all the answers, but the reality at HJA is very different. The firm embraces its true purpose of a training contract, to learn, to grow, and to develop confidence through experience. The supportive culture at HJA means that you're surrounded by people who want you to succeed and understand that the learning is a process. Instead of thinking I should have all the answers, I lean into the work. I have a willingness to learn, and I am super grateful for the experience to learn from such experienced lawyers. I have always been pleasantly surprised by the support with the trainee cohort. Both first and second years, trainees step up together in a way when it's needed. Together we've built a really lovely, supportive community.
Okay, thank you. Now, for many students who are thinking about applying for a training contract, obviously you would hope they do the research about what it takes to be a lawyer, to be a trainee, investigate the firm in question. But sometimes it's difficult to get a grasp on what those day-to-day activities look like as a trainee solicitor. Emily, if you could you talk me through the typical day in the life of a trainee? Essentially, we're trying to demystify what it's like day in, day out for those who are wondering how the weeks and months look to a trainee solicitor once they join a firm like Hodge Jones Allen solicitors. So if you could, please just talk us through your typical day.
Of course. A trainee's day usually starts with checking emails, planning tasks for the day, and then it shifts to drafting, research and helping on matters as and when they unfold. No 2 days look the same, but the constant learning on the job and gradually taking on more responsibility.
Okay. And so for your personal journey, Emily, have there been any moments so far, because I understand you're in your second seat, aren't you?
Yeah.
Have there been any moments so far where you felt, this is exactly why I wanted to become a lawyer? Have you had that moment yet?
Well, I've always known that I wanted to become a lawyer, but being surrounded by colleagues who share the same commitment to justice, who genuinely care about the people we represent, has been a positive reminder that I am exactly where I'm meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
The moments that stand out the most are those where we achieve a positive outcome for the clients. Seeing the impact our work has on somebody's life and knowing that we stood up for them when they needed it most is the clearest confirmation of why I chose this profession. The journey has shaped me both personally and professionally, with my family and friends noticing the positive change.
And I also think that's something that we hear quite often with our trainees, is the development that they see. And I think that really comes down to them being trusted with real work and the appreciation that they feel that they are given such important tasks and opportunities at our firm. Many thanks
for that input, both of you. So the subject today on this episode of The Letter of the Law and the London Legal Podcast is training contracts, and to really dig into what training contracts involve, we've got the case study of Hodge Jones Allen solicitors, and that's why today we're joined by two legal experts, trainee solicitor Emily Cope and trainee principal at the firm and partner Bahareh Amani. Thanks again both for being here today. So Emily, we just heard from you about your sort of daily experience as a trainee, your own personal journey. Now, what's really interesting about you is that you've actually written a book on the process with advice for aspiring trainees. Not every trainee solicitor gets to do that, so that's quite an achievement. So tell us what it's called, where listeners can get hold of it, and what prompted you to write it, please.
Well, I grew up in a small village in Staffordshire, and I was the first in my family to pursue university. So at the time, the training contract process felt incredibly daunting. I had no roadmap, no one to guide me, and I often felt like I was navigating it completely blind. I started my legal career in high street firms, but I always knew I wanted to work on cases that had a wider impact on society. Moving from a rural village to London was a huge transition, but it was driven by a clear ambition to build the skills and experience that would set me apart in the training contract process. To do that, I took the opportunity to work in Strasbourg at the Council of Europe. This experience aligned perfectly with the reason I wanted to become a lawyer in the first place, to contribute to meaningful, human-focused work. By the time I secured my training contract, I realised that I had become a completely different person from the one who started out at university. Stronger, more resilient, and far more certain of my purpose. Whilst in France, I wrote down every attribute, lesson, and mindset shift I developed along the way because I didn't want to lose sight of the journey. Those notes eventually became a toolkit, something that I hope will help others. It's called How to Secure a Training Contract by Emily Cope, and it's available on Amazon.
Excellent. So that book, How to Secure a Training Contract, and it's by Emily Cope, trainee solicitor here at Hodge Jones Allen Solicitors, available on Amazon. Emily, I'm just going to ask you a slightly additional question, depending on specific on what you wrote. You got an opportunity to work in Strasbourg at the Council of Europe. That's a really significant venue to seek experience. Why that particular place?
As I stated before, in my previous work history, I did work in high street firms, and I did note that I wanted to work on work that had a larger impact on society. So I actually worked on the abolition of the death penalty. So I thought, what better jump to take than to take on this opportunity? And I just knew that would then set me apart in my training contracts application process. And also on a personal level, to go abroad. I don't speak French, so it was a real life experience.
So you managed to, deal with that experience with speaking French. Wow, that's quite something.
Amazing.
Okay, so that book, How to Secure a Training Contract by Emily Cope, is available now. Not always that you actually get a live sort of journal, as it were, from a trainee solicitor in action, so that's really good. So let's turn to the application process, now specific to Hodge Jones Allen solicitors, but it's sometimes mirrored by many other firms. But let's talk about HJA specifically. So Bahareh, why don't you dig into exactly what it involves? If someone's listening to this, heads over to our website and thinks, you know what, this is the firm for me, I'm going to apply to be a trainee solicitor at Hodge Jones Allen solicitors. What can they expect?
Of course, Swarav. So for anyone listening who may be interested in applying for a training contract at Hodge Jones Allen, let me briefly explain how the process works at our firm. We welcome applications from both law graduates and non-law graduates, and we're really interested in candidates who show intellectual curiosity, commitment to the law, resilience, and an interest in the type of work that we do. We also operate a blind recruitment process, which means that certain identifying information is removed from our applications to make the process as fair as possible. It can be quite daunting if you don't think that your university necessarily or your background may how that may impact the application process. So at Hodge Jones Allen, we're very proud of our blind recruitment process. The recruitment then follows. The first step would be submitting an application form. The second stage would be a first stage interview. And if you're successful in the first stage interview, you would then be invited to a second stage interview with senior members of the firm. It's absolutely key to ensure that your application form is detailed, thorough, and answers the questions fully and appropriately, because we received many applications, and you have to ensure that your application stands out in order for it to be considered for that first stage interview. After the second stage interview, if you are successful, we typically interview the candidates in the late summer for the following year's intake. And that means if you apply in 2026 for a start in September of the following year, for example, that would be 2027. So if you apply this year and you are successful to secure a training contract at Hodge Jones Allen, that training contract will start next year, September 2027. If you are successful in securing a training contract, which will start in September 2027, you will start at our firm on the 1st of September with an induction with myself as trainee principal and HR, which will follow with allocation of seats, the department that you're going to be allocated to for your first 6 months. You will be introduced to your supervisor and your team, followed by a series of internal inductions and training, as well as a luncheon with our senior management team, which I organise and attend. Okay,
that interview process, Bahareh, I just want to ask you a question sort of from a human level, in the sense that if you're a student, it's daunting speaking to highly experienced legal experts such as yourself. Just from the point of view of how a personality comes across, how people answer questions, as an interviewer, what impresses you about how a person carries themselves, like how a student speaks, or just the way they walk into a room? Are there any sort of learnings from there that you can talk about?
I think for me, Swarav, confidence and a belief in yourself and what you have written is fundamental. Mm-hmm. You must own what you have written, and it must be relevant to you, and it must be personal to you. If you believe in what you have written and you are confident to present that and answer questions on that, then that is very commendable. But also know the firm that you are applying to. If you are doing mergers and acquisitions or IP and you want to go into a corporate environment, then Hodge Jones Allen is not the firm for you. So it's very important that you research the firm, research your interviewers, and ensure that this is the firm that's best aligned with you, your values, and your intended career progression. Without that research, you are unnecessarily wasting your own time and applying for somewhere that doesn't fit. And as experienced interviewers, we know the candidate that truly wants to be at Hodge Jones Allen.
Sure. Okay. No, thank you for that insight. Question actually that a lot of students submit and have submitted ahead of this show is with regards to non-law graduates. So some people wonder whether being a graduate of a law degree will place them in a better sort of vantage point compared to someone who hasn't done law. What's your perspective on that?
Not necessarily. We have many candidates, many trainees, many solicitors within the firm who haven't gone down the, let's call it traditional route of doing an undergraduate law degree. Just because you've done a law degree doesn't make you any better or any less viable candidate. If you have done a non-law degree, they very often have skills that are closely linked to law, such as psychology, English literature, journalism, the list can go on, criminology. So it's how you're able to showcase and demonstrate that your undergraduate law degree is relevant to a job, a training contract at Hodge Jones Allen. So I don't necessarily think that if you haven't done a law degree that your application will be disregarded for that. No, it's what you can demonstrate and highlight in your application.
Okay, thank you. So just to recap, we are talking today about training contracts. We're talking about the process, what it takes to make an application, sort of top tips essentially to demystify the process and to also understand what a trainee does day in, day out. If you're just joining us, and I hope you're not because you've been listening to the whole show, we're speaking with Bahareh Amani, a partner and training principal at the firm, and Emily Cope, who is a trainee solicitor at Hodge Jones Allen Solicitors. Now, if you want to make an application with that particular firm, visit www.hjA.net. Browse the menu and find the career section, and there you'll find out all the information you need about the trainee program, as well as actually how to make an application. It's very competitive out there, as you can imagine. And because it is competitive, I want to turn now to some sort of top tips. And if there's anything that is the most important part of the show, it would be this, because those top tips, that invaluable gold dust that we're always looking for as a student and a prospective lawyer, it's not something you come across every day. So to hear it from the source is quite something. So Bahareh, before I finish, I thought it would be useful to talk about tips for students who want to apply for training contracts. Could you sort of sum up some of your top tips? I know you've alluded to some of them earlier, but if you wouldn't mind expanding on those.
Of course. So I could probably sit here for hours and give you many, many tips on how to perfect the best training contract application, but I'll try to keep it succinct. And I think for me, the first tip is understand the firm. Understand where you are applying to. Research the firm. Think about the type of work the firm does, the clients it represents, and the values it stands for. It's key to ensure that your application is aligned to the firm that you're applying for. Number 2, show motivation. We look for people who can explain why they want to work in our type of practice. If you're applying to a firm known for human rights or claimant work, it's useful to show that genuine interest in those areas. As I've said earlier on, we have interviewed hundreds and thousands of applicants, and we know those that have that genuine motivation for our firm. Third tip, get experience. Yes, it's great to have legal experience, but at the same time, if you don't have legal experience, that's okay. Just demonstrate what skills you have where you're able to show communication, problem solving, and working with people. And finally, as I've said earlier on, you must know your application inside out and research your interviewers. If you know your application inside out, then you're very likely to be able to showcase the answers that will be the questions that will be put to you, and also you will have information and enough dialogue to have with your interviewers.
Thank you for that. That's really valuable advice for students who are listening to this and thinking about applying for a training contract, whether it's at HJA or any other firm, but particularly so at HJA, because you're hearing directly from the firm's trainee principal, Bahareh Amani. Now we've also got with us Emily Cope, trainee solicitor at the firm, who was speaking earlier about the process, her own personal journey to arriving at the firm. as well as sort of the daily activities, what she does. Emily, the application process from your perspective, can you speak about that? How did you find it?
I found the application process both refreshing and reassuring. The blind recruitment approach immediately signalled that HJA genuinely believes in its fairness and equal opportunity principle that are embedded in the firm's identity. The stage structure made the journey clear, manageable, and the remote option ensured accessibility. What stood out for me for most, though, was the tone of the interviews. The conversations were engaging, centred on topics and meaningful issues, and I felt encouraged to share my perspective openly. Although application processes often feel daunting, HJA's approach made me feel at ease. It was evident that the firm wanted to get to know me. I think as long as you prepare and you are honest in the interview, the process can be something you can actually learn from and really enjoy.
Great. And Emily, if you could give students one piece of advice when applying for training contracts, what would it be?
I would say to definitely let your personality shine through in your application. Plenty of candidates will have the degree and the relevant requirements. The real differentiator is you, so use your application to show who you are, what motivates you, and what genuinely sets you apart.
Okay. So Bahareh, what would you like to say to university students who are thinking of applying for a training contract with Hodge Jones Allen?
So anyone who's listening today, if you're interested in a career in law and want to work somewhere where you can make a real difference to someone's life and to clients, we'd absolutely encourage you to consider applying to Hodge Jones Allen. We're always looking for talented people from diverse backgrounds who are motivated and curious about the law. Our average rates of retention when our trainee solicitors go on to secure a newly qualified position at the firm is more than 2/3 of our trainees. 57% of our management board are female and 76% of the partners in the firm are also female. And hopefully today's conversation has given you a bit of insight into what training at the firm is like. I'd like to thank you again for having us and hope to see some applications coming through soon.
You're going to get hundreds of applications coming through soon, so I hope you're ready for that, Bahareh. Now, before I let you both go, we have had some advanced questions sent through for this show. So I just want to run those past you, if that's okay. Now, you may have covered some of these before, but I'm just going to throw them at you, if that's okay, Bahareh. First question, do I need lots of legal work experience?
No, not necessarily. What we look for is potential. Experience can help, but what matters more is demonstrating skills and interest in the law and being able to showcase your answers on your application form.
Okay. And you mentioned this about people students who have not studied law necessarily. So the question again is, can non-law students apply?
Yes. As I mentioned earlier, many successful solicitors have started with other degrees and then completed the conversion course. So you're welcome to apply to Hodge Jones Allen as a trainee, even if you haven't done a law undergraduate degree.
Okay. Now, obviously, within sort of your vantage point as a trainee principal, as a partner, and you've had trainees in seats who you supervise. In your experience, what have you found makes a good trainee?
So I'm going to answer that, but then I'm also going to let Emily tell me what she thinks makes a good trainee. Mm-hmm. For me, a good trainee is curiosity, organisation, and the ability to communicate. And what does that mean? Communicating well with colleagues and clients. And so, Emily, for you, what makes a good trainee?
Thanks, Bahareh. I think a good trainee and values that a trainee definitely needs to sustain a really good outcome after the 2 years is definitely organisation, definitely resilience, but then also somebody that's got the mindset of no task is too big. There's got to be a determination there to understand you're not going to know the answer, but it's okay. Mm-hmm. But it's how we find a way to get the answer. That's the most important thing.
Very good answers.
Yeah, very insightful. Okay, those are the questions we have had. I'm going to round off this show now and say that if you're listening to this, whether you're a student or just a member of the community who has someone within your family or a loved one or someone that you know who wants to embark on the journey of becoming a lawyer, then by all means listen back to this show, of course. Take these learnings to heart. And if you listen to this and you think to yourselves that Hodge Jones and Allen Solicitors might be one of the firms that you actually want to apply to, then head over to their website, which is www.hja.net. Learn a bit more about the firm, of course, but if you just want to go straight to hit apply, then check out the careers page of the website, and there you'll find all the information you need about their trainee program, as well as the application form. And Bahareh, if someone's going to head over to that website straight after listening to this, can you confirm the deadline for when applications must be submitted?
Of course, the window for application is now open, and it will close on Friday, 26th of June of this year.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Emily Cope, trainee solicitor, and Bahareh Amani, partner and trainee principal at Hodge Jones Allen solicitors. We've been talking training contracts, and we hope this information has been valuable to students and anyone else interested in the programme at Hodge Jones Allen solicitors. So from Bloomsbury Radio at Bloomsbury Institute London on the Letter of the Law, and the London Legal Podcast by Hodge Jones Allen, is goodbye from us, but also goodbye from Emily and Bahareh. Thanks so much for taking part, both of you.
Thank
you.